Hi, I'm Nick Buckley and I'm standing for Mayor of Greater Manchester next year. Have you walked around the city centre recently, or any of our town centres? Have you noticed the people sat there on the damp, wet street corners, paper cups in their hands, begging? Walk round the corner, people sat in cardboard boxes trying to sleep in doorways. Is that good enough? 21st century Manchester, 21st century UK. Is it good enough? Do you feel ashamed? Because you should. You personally may not be to blame, but the way you vote is to blame. The fact you've never complained to your councillors or complained to your MP or marched on the street saying no more rough sleeping in the UK. But you may have complained about something else. Litter. You may have marched for another cause, but no one ever cares about rough sleeping in this country. And for that, I'm ashamed. Now, if elected mayor, I'm going to solve rough sleeping in 1 year. 1 year, I hear you ask? Andy Burnham said he'd do it in 3 years, and he's now at 6. And let's give him some credit. It's slightly better now than it was 6 years ago. But no way can anyone say rough sleeping has ended in Greater Manchester. You walk round any street in any town city centre. You look outside any supermarket and you know it hasn't been achieved. I tweeted this to Andy Burnham last month and he replied back saying, "Nick, I think you'll find my project, A Bed Every Night, has spare beds every single night in Greater Manchester. Therefore, I've lived up to my promise. Rough sleeping doesn't exist anymore in Greater Manchester because we have empty beds." Now, all that may be true, but his promise wasn't, as mayor, I'm going to create beds. His promise was, within 3 years, I'll eradicate rough sleeping. Having beds that nobody wants isn't eradicating rough sleeping. We need to speak to the individuals on the streets, and they're broken people with complex lives, and we need to figure out how we help them as an individual. You want accommodation that takes dogs? We will sort that. You want accommodation where they won't kick you out if you're drunk or you're on drugs? We'll sort that. I'm tired of people blaming rough sleeping on the rough sleepers. They refused service, you know. They said they didn't want any help, you know. What they're really saying is, my service is rubbish, and even rough sleepers don't want my service. And I can't be to blame for that, because I'm amazing. It must be them. Those broken people are really broken. It's their fault. They're living in the waste that they're living in. And part of that's true. They are broken people. But you solve a problem by understanding a problem. And these people need professional help and support. They need choices. The first step is to get them off the streets. Doesn't matter how we get them off the streets, we get them off the streets into accommodation. We make sure that accommodation is appropriate. I don't mean 5-star hotels like illegal immigrants get. I mean appropriate accommodation, such as you don't get kicked out if you're injecting heroin. That sounds crazy, but if that's stopping someone taking help, then let them take drugs. We can deal with the drug taking later. Let's get them off the streets, let's get them stable, let's stop them dying on the streets, let's improve their mental health. Then we can deal with the alcohol issues, the drug issues, the mental health issues. Can't deal with any of that with someone living in a cardboard box in an entry. Get them off the streets first. And I'll do it in 1 year, mainly because I have the experience. Nearly 20 years I've been involved with rough sleeping. I've got dozens and dozens of people off the streets, into jobs, made them re-contact with their family. Because sometimes the family member is the best person to look after them, not the state. Because believe me, the state does everything poorly. But if a family member can look after them, even better. Now, the accommodation side of it will be complicated to begin with. We'll be looking at warehouses, we'll be looking at self-contained living units, we'll be looking at getting services to visit those places. People the Facebook groups who go into the city centre feeding people, we'll work with them, we'll get them going to these centres so they can feed people there. There's so many people who want to help. There's so many people who are trying to help now. But it's not leading to anything because it's not coordinated. It's not the right type of help. As mayor, I'll make sure the right type of help hits the right people. And within 1 year, there'll be no more people living on the streets. I'm not going to say there's no more homelessness, because homelessness is a different issue to solve altogether. That's about building homes. I'm talking about people living and dying on the streets. That's our priority. I'll do it in 1 year. Don't believe me? Vote for me and then hold me accountable after 1 year. Can be done. It just takes will, determination and a backbone. We can do it. Humans can achieve anything they want to achieve. Look at our history, look at what we've achieved so far. And you're telling me we can't get a couple of hundred people off the streets and into accommodation and then try to fix those people. I'm not having that as an excuse. We can do it. We shall do it. And it'll happen if you vote for me next May at a Greater Manchester Mayor election. Let's have a vision. Let's strive to be better. Let's have a better region. Let's have a better life because we know we've helped other people and we've not used a sticking plaster just to make us feel better. It's in your hands. Vote differently. See you soon.